Laura Ingalls Wilder became an icon of American pioneer life. She spent much of her young life traveling in a covered wagon with her parents as they traveled around the Midwest, moving from town to town. Later on in life, Laura compiled stories about her life and she turned them into the Little House on the Prairie books. The books also became a movie later on. According to the Encyclopedia of World Biography, Laura was born February the 7th of 1867 to Charles and Caroline Ingalls. She was born in a log cabin in the Big Woods near Pippin, Wisconsin. Her father was Charles Ingalls. He was a jolly and pleasant but kind of reckless young man. Caroline, her mother, was gentle, educated, and proud. Laura was the second of 4 girls. Her sisters were Mary, Grace, and Carrie. They also had a brother who died at about 9 months of age. His name was Charles, and they called him Freddie. As a young girl, they moved around the Midwest, and in 1874, they moved to Walnut Grove, where they lived in a dugout hut home. 2 years later, they moved to Burr Oaks, Iowa, where Charles was part owner of a hotel there. In 1877, they returned to Walnut Grove. Walnut Grove is the basis of a lot of her stories that she tells. In 1879, they moved again to a homestead in Dakota Territories, and they settled there finally in DeSmet, South Dakota, where her parents remained until their death. During the second winter there, it was the worst winter on record. They struggled with bitter cold, and the town was cut off from all supplies, such as food, necessities, and wood. Laura attended school when she could, but since they moved around a lot, she was mostly self-taught. In 1882, at the age of 15, she received her teaching degree. She went to teach at a small country school, which was about 12 miles from their home. She lived in a boarding house there because it was too far to travel on a daily basis. It was there that she met Almanzo Wilder, who would become her husband. They married August 25th of 1885. She quit teaching after they got married so she could help Almanzo farm. Their only surviving child was Rose. She was born December 5th of 1886. The Wilders experienced several tragedies. They lost a son in 1889. Almanzo came down with diphtheria, which left him partially paralyzed, and later their home burnt to the ground. Then, on July the 17th of 1894, they began their journey to Mansfield, Missouri. There they established Rocky Ridge Farm. She journaled all the way there about all the things that they encountered along the way. They lived in Mansfield for the remainder of their life. Rose, their daughter, moved back there. She built them a new home, and Rose moved into the old farm home. At first, Laura began to write her stories, and Rose, her daughter, encouraged her to write them. She grew up her whole life listening to the stories that her mother told. At first, no one was interested in the books, but in 1932, at age 65, she published her first Little House books. And then at age 76, she completed the series. By then, they had sold off most of their farm except for about 70 acres. They remained there until Manley died at the age of 92, and Laura died after at the age of 90 on February the 10th of 1957. Later, her Little House books were turned into a series, and people to this day still enjoy reading them. Laura's made a great impression about how life was back then. And I have a picture of her home. This is the home that Manley built. And later, this was the home that Rose had built for her parents.